This tutorial will help you to complete the questions on homework number 9. Let's take a look at our first question here. The length and width of a rectangle are consecutive integers. The perimeter of the rectangle is 86 inches. Find the length and width of the rectangle. So as I'm reading this question, I've got to take note of a couple of things. The first one is that we're looking for consecutive integers. That means we're skip counting by 1. So we have one integer, we have the next integer, then we have the integer after that, we have the integer after that, etc., etc. So let's see how many consecutive integers we need. The length and the width. So that's 2 separate values. So the first one would be n, and the second one would be n plus 1. It's telling us that the perimeter, and I know this from my own prior knowledge, that a perimeter of a rectangle can be found by taking twice the width plus twice the length. So 2L plus 2W is the perimeter. So if the perimeter is 86, then I can find the length and the width. So the length is the first integer, and the width is the next consecutive integer. So I'm going to fill these values in here. The perimeter is 86, so I erase and replace the letter P with an 86. And I erase and replace the letter L with its value here, which would be n. And then I erase and replace the value for W, which would be this one here, which would be n plus 1. And now I'm going to solve. 86 equals 2n plus 2n plus 2, or 86 is equal to 4n plus 2. Subtract 2. 84 is equal to 4n. Divide by 4. N is equal to 21. So the length is 21, the width is 1 more than that. So if the length is 21, the width would be 22, because it told me that the length and the width are consecutive integers. So we're going to type that into these boxes here, that the length is 21, the width is 22, and the length is 21. Excellent. Let's try another one. The length and width of a rectangle are consecutive odd integers. The perimeter of the rectangle is 104 centimeters. Find the length and the width. It's exactly like the last question. So let's paste this onto a new page and take a look here. So I'm going to use this formula again, that the perimeter is equal to twice the length plus twice the width. But this time, my values are consecutive odd integers. So the first one is n, but the next one is n plus 2. The perimeter is 104. So I'm going to erase and replace the perimeter with 104. And I'm going to erase and replace the length with an n, and erase and replace the width with n plus 2, which is different than last time. So 104 is equal to 2n plus 2n plus 4. Combine like terms. Subtraction property of equality. Division property of equality. And the value of my first integer will be 25. Now, remember, it said 2 consecutive odd integers. So 25, and then the next one, right, would be n plus 2. So 25 and 27 will be my solution. 25 and 27. So we'll type that into the answer boxes here. 25 and 27. Josh is the middle of 3 siblings whose ages are consecutive integers. If the sum of their ages is 72, find Joshua's age. So Josh is the middle of 3 siblings. So I'm going to screenshot this question here. And we'll paste it in. Let's take a look. So 3 siblings are consecutive integers. So the first, the second, whoops, and the third. This one is Josh. And that's who we're looking for. It tells us that the sum of their ages is 72. So the first plus the second plus the third is 72. Combine like terms. Subtract 3 from both sides. Right here, my inverse operation. Divide both sides by 3. And this gives us the value of the first sibling. But we want to know Josh's age, and Josh is the second sibling. So 23 plus 1 is Josh. So Josh is 24. So we can type that in here, that Josh is 24 years old. Alright, let's take a look at the next lesson. Level 2. Isaiah is older than Marquise. Their ages are consecutive integers. Find Isaiah's age if the sum of Isaiah's age and 5 times Marquise's is 109. Alright, their ages are consecutive integers. So n and n plus 1. And Isaiah is older. So this one is Isaiah. Marquise. Let's translate the algebra equation. Find Isaiah's age if, so this is the one we're looking to find Isaiah's age if the sum of Isaiah's age and 5 times, so we're going to add that to 5 times Marquise, and that is equal to 109. So n plus 5n, 6n, plus 1. Oops, I did the math by accident already. 6n equals 108. Divide both by 6. And n is equal to 118. So that's Marquise. So Isaiah would be 18 plus 1. Isaiah, it would be 19. Let's go back to the next problem. The perimeter of a rectangle is 204 centimeters. Find the length and width. If the length is an even integer and the width is 3 times the next consecutive even integer. Okay. Let's start this one from the beginning. So, we know that a perimeter of a rectangle is twice the length plus twice the width. Find the length and width if the length is an even integer and the width is 3 times the next consecutive integer. So the length is some integer we don't know, which happens to be even, and then the width is 3 times the next consecutive even integer. So to go from an even to the next even, you'd have to add 2. Now we're going to input these values into our formula here. So the perimeter is 204, the length is n, and the width is double 3n plus 2. That's a lot of parentheses, but we'll figure this out. 204 is equal to 2n plus 2 times 3n plus 6. So 204 is equal to 2n plus 6n plus 12, right, when I distribute here. So 204 is equal to 8n plus 12. Subtract 12. So 8n is equal to 192. Divide by 8. And n is equal to, goes in twice, with 3 left over, 24. Alright, so n is 24. That makes the length 24. So the length is 24, and the width is 3 times 24 plus 2, or 3 times 26. So the width is 20, 40, 60, 78. So 24 and 78. Let's go back again. The length is 24. The width is 78. All right. Transforming formulas. So we practiced this several times in class. Hopefully you're feeling confident. But the first thing we always check for is variables in the denominator, clearing fractions, and square rooting or factoring. So it looks here like I have a fraction and I want to solve for h. So I want to get h by itself. I want to get rid of all of these items. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is the 1/3. And I get rid of a 1/3 by multiplying by the reciprocal, which gives me a really nice looking equation here. Now because pi and r² are multiplying h, I can remove both of them at the same time by dividing by pi r². These are the multiplicative inverses, and that leaves me with an h by itself over 3v pi r². Pause the video if you need to look at that a little bit longer. So we're going to type 3v fraction bar, and then I'm going to click this button here to get pi, and then r. I'm going to press Shift 6 to get my power. Otherwise I could use this keypad right here. 3v over pi r². Let's transform another formula. This one, rewrite the formula and solve for h. I just did that one. I just did that. 3v over pi r². Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at this one. And I know when you read it, you start to get overwhelmed, but just focus on the question. Solve the formula for L. That's it. Get L by itself. The fact that this formula is used to determine the period of one swing of a pendulum doesn't really matter. You don't need to know what acceleration is, or the string, or what a pendulum is. You just need to know that this is your starting formula, and we want to get L by itself. So write your formula down, and focus on what you want to isolate and where it is. Right now it is in a numerator, so that means we have to clear the denominator, but it's also underneath the square root sign, so we need to clear the radical, but we also have something outside the square root sign, so why don't we start here? Let's get rid of this factor 2 pi. So how do you get rid of timesing by 2 pi? You divide by 2 pi. So that's what we're going to do first. So that gives us t over 2 pi is equal to the square root of L over G. Now you can't remove any parts of these fractions until you get rid of this square root sign. So the inverse of a square root is a square. These two are opposites. And if I square one side, I need to square the other side. So that leaves me with t over 2 pi squared equals the fraction L over G. Now to get rid of a denominator of dividing by G, I need to multiply both sides by G, and that's my final answer. L is equal to G times this large quantity. So the G is not squared, the t over 2 pi is. So G times the quantity t over 2 pi squared. So G times the quantity t over 2 pi the whole quantity, so I got to arrow out, squared. All right, let's go take a look at inequalities and the number line. So this one can be a little bit tricky down here trying to plot it, but the first thing you need to do is solve 3x plus 9 is greater than or equal to negative 15. So when we subtract 9 from both sides, and then we divide both sides by 3, I get the quantity x is greater than or equal to negative 8. I can be any number that is greater than or equal to negative 8. So any number x is greater than or equal to negative 8. Now what you need to do here is click on this value first. Negative 8 is my starting value. Click once, hold your mouse down, and drag it to the right. That would be the greater than. Since I can go anywhere greater than negative 8, I click on the negative 8 and I drag my mouse all the way over. So I'm going to click this line to make it go away. One more time. Start here with the answer value, negative 8, click one time and drag your finger to the right, all the way to the arrow. Now you can make this circle open or closed by clicking it once or twice. This has a greater than or equal to sign. So I can be equal to negative 8, so it should be closed. Let's try this again. So to do the math here, you're going to add 16 to both sides. Right? Add 16, giving us 8x is greater than negative 8 plus 16 is 8. Divide both sides by 8. X is greater than 1. So that's what I'm going to type here where it says inequality notation. I'm going to type x, click the greater than 1. Now again, I'm going to go to this number first, 1. I'm going to click it once. Nothing will appear, but I'm going to click it and drag my finger in the greater than direction, all the way to the arrow. Now, I cannot be 1, but I can be greater than 1. So I need to go back to this circle here and click it to make it an open circle. One more time, as you're solving, you're going to add 13 to both sides. And after you divide by 2, you're going to get less than or equal to 7. That's what we're going to type in here, and then you're going to choose to graph from 7, which is here. Click one time and drag your arrow to the right. Decide whether you want an open or closed circle, and submit your answer. So for this problem here, we're going to subtract 17 from both sides. Sorry. Subtract 17. Divide both sides by 3. And don't forget when you're typing here to click one of these inequality symbols, so x is less than or equal to 8. And then don't forget that you start with this value of 8. So you click one time, and this time we're going to go less than. So I'm going to keep dragging my mouse or my finger along the trackpad till I get to that arrow. Now I can be equal to, so I will leave this circle solid. Okay, now let's take a look at sometimes when you solve an inequality or you have variables on both sides, you might need to use that new rule that you have to reverse the order, right? So let's take a look at what we have here. I'm actually going to subtract 6v because I like my v's on the left, giving me negative 2v plus 9 is greater than negative 8. Subtract 9. Negative 2v is greater than negative 15. No, what am I saying? Sorry. Negative 6v, negative 6v, negative 2v is greater than negative, plus 9. Negative 2v plus 9 is greater than negative 8. Negative 2v is greater than negative 17. Divide by negative 2, and this is what I was talking about. When you divide by a negative, you take this symbol and you reverse the direction, right? You reverse the order. So v is less than positive 8.5. So v is less than 8.5. So that's what I'm going to select over here. V is less than 8.5. Let's try that again. I'm going to subtract 5p, and that gives me p minus 2 is less than 1. Add 2 to both sides. I do not reverse the order this time because I'm not dividing by a negative. So p is less than 3. P is less than 3. One last time. This time I am going to subtract 10f because I like my variables on the left. Subtract 6. And this time I will reverse the order and get 16 over 15. Positive 16 over 15. So f is less than, because I reversed the order, 16 over 15. Okay, last topic. Express the interval shown on the number line in inequality notation. Inequality notation means I need to use one of these 4 symbols. Okay? So, I am any number that is in this green area. So negative 10 is the lowest I can be, negative 6 is the highest I can be. So I need to be in between. So I need 2 symbols that are facing the same way. Now because these green dots are solid, I'm going to choose one of these 2 here, because these are the equal to signs. Now negative 10 is the smallest I can be. So negative 10 is lower than everything else. So I'm going to use this less than sign, because negative 10 is lower than everything else. And I'm going to use my x. And then remember, you need a symbol that faces the same direction. So the x should be in between these 2 symbols. So x, when reading backwards, is greater than negative 10, but x, when reading forward, will be less than negative 6. So you need to have the x in the middle, and these 2 symbols, no matter what you pick, have to be facing the same direction. All right, let's try this one more time. X is greater than or equal to negative 7. So I'm going to click on negative 7. Remember, nothing will appear until I drag my finger or my mouse in the direction of which the answer can go. So I can be greater than negative 7, so I'm going to drag it to this arrow. It can be anything along here. I can be equal to negative 7, so I will leave that circle solid. Let's try another one. All right, this one says express the interval in inequality notation. So again, I'm using one of these 4 symbols, and I need 2 that face the same way. And because they're both solid, I need to choose from one of these. Again, negative 6 is my lowest number, so negative 6 is less than or equal to any of these other numbers that I can be. So my x goes in the middle, and now I need a repeat symbol, right? 2 less than or equal to signs. Now this one doesn't have to be an equal to, depends on if the circle is shaded or not. All right, that concludes our lesson for homework number 9.